It's called Trokosi, and it means wife or slave of the gods. It's an ancient West African tradition that to this day enslaves thousands of women and young girls, some as young as 7 years old. They're condemned to a life of slave labor and sexual servitude not because they did anything wrong, but because someone in their family committed a crime, sometimes generations ago. And to pay for the crime, their families must send young virgins to be the slaves of tribal priests, often for the rest of their lives. This is a Trokosi slave girl, right? A Trokosi girl. How old is this little girl? 7 years old. Do you know why you're here?
No.
What crime is this child paying for?
Her uncle committed adultery.
Do you like it here? Do you miss your parents?
Yes.
Slavery in this part of Africa is nothing new. Hundreds of years ago, at the height of the slave trade, the Volta River was one of its main highways. Millions of slaves were shipped to the Americas from coastal villages like these. But today, more than a century after slavery was abolished, thousands of young girls are held in bondage up and down this river. To find the girls and the priests, we had to travel to some of West Africa's most isolated places, deep in marshlands of the Volta River, in villages where Christianity is still seen as a hostile intrusion. This is where we found the tribal priest Gidisu, attended by one of his 10 slave wives. But before anyone would even talk to us, we had to appease the gods with $10 and a couple of bottles of hard liquor.
Tell me, what is your problem with our religion that you've come all the way from your country to find out about it?
We want to understand why young girls are made to pay for the sins or the crimes of their family members.
It is our fetish gods that demand the girls. Death will strike your family unless you bring a young virgin to us.
And that's how a life of slavery begins for thousands of African girls. They are brought to these shrines or village churches when they are still children, and they may stay until they die. They are meant to marry the gods, but it's the priests who'll stand in. By day, the priests make them work in their homes and on their farms. By night, they demand sex. And they don't have to pay the girls, clothe them, or even feed them.
Trokosis are not slaves. How can the person I marry be a slave?
Do you think these girls are happy to be your wife? They haven't chosen you. Are they happy?
Oh, fine.
But it's not fine for Akuponyo. Today, she becomes a Trokosi slave. She's not allowed to talk to us, to tell us what she thinks. She doesn't have to. Akuponyo is carrying her dowry on her head and the money she's collected to support herself as a Trokosi slave. She hasn't committed any crime, but years ago, her great-grandfather murdered someone. And according to these people's traditions, Akuponyo is the latest young woman to have to pay for the sins of her ancestors. Family members accompany Akuponyo on her 6-mile walk to the tribal priest. They are sacrificing her because they believe that otherwise the gods will bring death to the family, to punish them for their forefathers' crimes. It is a never-ending cycle of fear, says Akuponyo's uncle.
Whatever the custom demands for the death to stop, that's what the family will do, even though it's so painful for us.
It's a public ritual of humiliation. Akuponyo has to walk a gauntlet of jeering villagers and beg them for money. The tribal priest she will serve is Maku.
As far as I'm concerned, It is good because it deters others from committing crimes.
We saw her from the beginning when she was waiting to come here, crying a lot. Why do you think she was crying if it's so good?
If you see her weeping, she's crying from joy.
But Akuponyo's humiliation continues inside this hut that's their holy shrine. She's supposed to become the wife of a god, but in reality, one of the priests can take her as a slave for work and for sex. What you are seeing are the secret rituals of atonement that have never before been filmed. Everything from Akuponyo's former life must now be stripped away. Her clothes, her beads, her earrings, and finally her pride. The work of a slave begins at dawn. There are 21 in Maku's village. There's 2 over there. We wanted to meet some of them, so we asked Maku to show us around. There is this little girl who was brought in just 2 weeks ago, and there are old women who've been here all their lives. If you had been able to choose, how would you have spent your life? What would you have done?
They brought me here so young, I had no say in my life. Now that I'm about to die, I don't care what happens to me.
But even a whole life of servitude doesn't pay off a debt to the gods. Girls keep paying for the same offense from generation to generation. You're the replacement for your sister who died?
Yes,
Are you happy here?
I guess.
In private, Christine told us a different story. You will become the wife of a priest? Do you want to? Huh? No. Do you want to run away?
Yes, I want to run away.
And why don't you run away? Where are your parents?
My parents died.
They died. For the 5 years she's been here, Christine has been forced to trade in her school books for hard labor.
When my father died, I stopped going to school, even though I had wanted to become a doctor. I feel very sad because by staying here, I have lost my chance at an education.
This is the future awaiting Christine if she stays in the shrine, chasing away the birds that scavenge the priest's harvest and bearing the priest's children. Even if they can run away, the world they find outside is not much kinder. Once branded a Trokosi slave, their families don't want them back.
When I ran away from the priest, life was so hard. People ran away from me. Even my relatives turned their backs.
Mercy Senyale is still an outcast after running away from a priest who kept her enslaved for 15 years. And all because her great-grandmother stole a pair of gold earrings. She has 3 children now. The priest first forced himself on her when she was 11 years old.
The first night, he wanted to sleep with me, and I refused. So he beat me so hard my cries woke up all the other slave girls. And I finally gave in.
Can you tell us about the priest?
The priest is not very big, but he's very wicked.
This is the priest Mercy served, Togbe Aklidopo. By day, he's a government official with the Ministry of Health. By night, he's a husband to 10 slaves who've borne him 60 children.
That is my son.
We've talked to one girl at least who's spoken to us about your shrine, and she said that you beat her, that you forced her to work with no money, that she hardly had anything to eat, and that you forced her to sleep with you when she was 11 years old.
And you believe it? Do you believe it?
I'm asking you.
That's what I'm also asking. Do you believe that story is never correct?
All the girls, all the wives you take, do they all accept your advances? Do they all want to sleep with you, or do they have to?
Having sex with a woman depends on love and affection. If the woman is not willing, you can't force it.
Is the priest lying then when he tells us that everybody was happy and everybody was treated well?
He is telling lies. He's telling a big lie. So many of us couldn't stand the suffering. We had to run away.
Anyone who ran away was brought back by their parents and repeatedly raped again in this very building. Later, some of the girls were helped by Reverend Walter Ping Pong.
The sad part of it is that your parents brought you or your family brought you, so if you ran to them, they bring you back. You know, you just can't escape. International Needs does not want to replace the fetish priest.
Reverend Ping Pong now leads the campaign to end slavery in Ghana. He's trying to convince the priests to set the girls free.
Most of the priests that we've encountered are farmers, and so we give them cows.
And what do they say when you say, here's a cow and a sheep for this 10-year-old girl? What do they say? They say, great?
No, a lot of them will ask us, do you want me to go to bed with a cow or a goat? And I'm sorry, but this is about, you know, the understanding that some of them have. You know, there is some value to these girls that they can't really have in cows and goats.
Which is sex.
Which is sex, literally.
Reverend Ping Pong has managed to free these 31 women from their priest for 5 cows and about $1,000. At this liberation ceremony, the blood of a slaughtered goat marks the darkness of slavery and death. The white headbands mark freedom. The slaves' symbolic chains are cut, and they jump from one world to the next. So far, 436 slaves have gone through these rituals and have been set free, but thousands more remain in captivity. And according to Togbe, the tribal priest, that's where they'll stay.
This practice was in existence before the white men came to Ghana. I shall also continue till I die.
Some goodwill messages, and we'll now have another one from His Majesty Oba Abdul Rashid Akubani, the Olu of Iwo. Please give him, His Majesty, a warm welcome as he comes to the stage.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, with everyone here present at this year's Commonwealth African Summit. My name is King Abdul Rashid Adewale Akanbi, the Oluwo of Iwo Land in Osun State, Nigeria. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let me start by thanking the organizers of this summit for giving me the honor to delivering this keynote of this year's Commonwealth African Summit with the theme, Investing in Our Common Future. Though I might take a little bit diversion from the note that I prepared, because I've had some things here today. I'm sorry for not coming in time. I should have been here, but there was some misinformation about the time. What you will hear from me today is something that you might have never heard before, or something that it's a different way of healing our own people. Investing in our common future is about, especially when it comes to the African initiative, It's about how do we move on. The problems that you were talking about over here, right now, you have to admit when you are sick, you have to first tell people if you have a stomach ache, you have to tell them before they can actually find a cure for you. And the cure, as a black race, I will talk for the black race. Everybody has their own problem. The Western world has their own issues. But as a royal father, they call me, in Africa, we are royal fathers, me, especially me, and as a first-class traditional ruler from Nigeria. I have lived my life, a larger part of my life in Canada. Sometimes I live in the 90s in Germany also. But most of my life, I'm also a Canadian, Nigerian. But I find that I need to identify the problem of we, the black race, especially the Africans, and the blacks all over the world. And our problem is that we haven't healed from slavery. And to heal from slavery, we should know that we have some issues. It's a sensitive issue, but today I want to put that issue to rest and find a solution for we blacks to move forward and move ahead so that we can join this race that is called civilization. We are very intelligent. We are smart people. Even when you see an African that is in the States or in England today, in the UK, you can see the ones that are in school or in the university, they are one of the best in schools. But we have a problem, and it's a problem from our past, and that is how can we heal from slavery. Today, I will tell us, the black race, that our problem is, and I will take full responsibility for my part, and that what has slavery done to us that has made us to be in this position, that has made our communities, wherever we are, to be ghettos. That we have what is called the so-called white neighborhood, and we have the black neighborhood. The black neighborhood is not moving. It is the ghettos. Who made it like that? Are we the one that made it, or people made it for us? If we say people made the ghettos for us in America, in Britain, and everywhere, what about where we're living in Africa? Who made it for us? Who made the ghettos? I will tell you, if you don't know, if you are an African, you can see this, but this concerns mainly the Caribbean islands, the African Americans, the black British. And it is that we, the leaders of the past, ancient kings, are actually to blame for slavery more. Why? When there was no money in Africa, when there was trade by barter, the government of the Western world, did they bring guns and start telling you to pack yourself in the boat? Or were there Africans who were party to it? We know that many of our leaders and kings, they were the ones that were paid to get the slaves to the boats. Go and check Madame Tinubu. Go and check many kings. Madame Tinubu is a hero today. What was she? She was a slave trader. A big-time slave trader. Was exiled many times. But today, she's our hero. The people stealing our money, we are still enslaved till today. people stealing our money in Africa, are heroes, are the so-called heroes of this nation. How do we heal from this? Is to tell our people that we actually are the ones that sold you into slavery. And anywhere you are in the world that you have made home, embrace civilization. Try. I'm not saying that the Western world is not guilty also. But when you try and sell your own child for cigarettes, suits, liquor, because we don't have liquor back in the days, we only have palm wine. Ogogoro is not ours. Gun is not ours. We don't have guns back in the days. Maybe you don't know. Guns is the guns that were brought here, and we took that, and we made some. People are big because when there was trade by barter, we don't have anything to pay for guns. We don't have anything to pay for cigarettes. We don't have anything to. By the first Europeans that came and we were exploring, the ones that came to Africa who came for slave traders, they are not the government of the British government or the American government. They are like drug dealers. Slave traders are who? Like drug dealers. That's why when they can't find a place and they need a place to store their goods before they can find a place to, the Caribbean islands today were storage places. They were storage facilities. They were places that you store your goods before the people who can take the slaves in the back alley. This is how we need to know that we're living right now. If you are an African American or a British, you should know that this is your home. Africa might be your country of origin. And if you don't accept that your neighbor or your friends, even if it's white or black, is your friend and is who you have to move with, then you can't move on. You cannot say all Western people, this way or whites, they are all guilty of slavery. Then it's making you to be enemies of the people that you live with. Many of us have been living in the Caribbean, I think over 400, 500 years. Well, many are Nigerians too, Africans that move here have been living maybe over 100, 200 years. And you still see a barrier between the white and the black. When you are doing this, then the white man would think that you two, we are all enemies, and there will be, think about it. Even in Nigeria, when the Ghanaians came to Nigeria back in the 70s, they used to shine our shoes. We call them sobata. Do you allow your sisters? The discrimination is even part of us now. Do you allow your sisters, your brothers to marry a Ghanaian? Would you? Ask yourself. I'm saying this is a bitter pill for you to swallow. But as a royal father, I have to say the truth. For us to heal and move forward, we are smart people, intelligent, very, very smart. But when we have a sickness or a disease inside us and we don't have a dose to heal it, we will still be sick. How do we move forward? How can we actually, in this, when you're talking about space, how many Africans want to know about space? Technology. Who wants to care about that? Take your space somewhere else. That's what they will tell you. You know, how many people, even in America, what's the percentage? We have an issue. And you need to do more. Our people are stealing our money. The very, very unscrupulous leaders, Very bad people and wicked ones are stealing our money and bringing it here, and you are taking it. You are not supposed to take that money. Tell them, where did you get these billions from? Let me tell you, in 5 years, there was a windfall in 5 years in Nigeria. In 2000, I think, during the time of Jonathan, President Jonathan. Though he's a hero today, but they made over $500 billion. $500 billion, do you know what it can do to Nigeria? It will make Nigeria like Britain. We would have done all our train services, will be, the roads will be good, healthcare will be excellent. But today, all those money is here in Britain, all those money is in America and in Switzerland. And you have taken those money and keep it in many different names. We want you to help us. You need to help us. What I'm saying is an adage. When you make us live right, then you will have peace. But when you see a time bomb in Africa, we have time bombs. Nigeria is the most populous nation. And the black race is looking forward. It is looking up to Nigeria to lead. We are backwards. We are behind now. Because all our money is somewhere. We have people who are hiding here in England, in the UK. Stole our money and they are hiding here. You didn't take them and throw them back to us, to jail them. We need to jail them to make a... We have a leader now in Nigeria. Regardless if you like Buhari or not. Muhammadu Buhari is a leader. Though he might have lieutenants or people that work with him that are corrupt. But Muhammadu Buhari is a leader who is not corrupt. And I can say that anywhere. Because I know him. The man is a Petroleum Trust chairman. And he doesn't have a oil well. He doesn't have an oil block. He doesn't have a house in England. He doesn't have nothing. He doesn't have gas stations. So you need to help us, help this man. Because when we are okay, because there is a time bomb there in Africa that you won't even be able to come back there if the violence come up. People are tired. People are tired. And when we don't live right there, when there's insecurity in the most populous black nation in the world, there won't be security. This place won't be secured also. Because we have many of our people living among you. Please, don't make that place a Boko Haram place. Don't make our people who are not even Boko Harams to start knowing that we need to. This is too bad. It's really, I can read my speech and you can find, I can even share it. This is a very great speech. If you want me to read it, but the things inside me, I just have to say it out. Please, our own black people, you need to heal. You need to heal. This man is not your, please, can you stand up? Let me see you, please. This man is not your enemy, though he's white. He is not your enemy. The way you succeed, try, please sit down. Thank you very much for standing up. Thank you. He's an older man, and I told him to stand up, and he did. Please, find a way to know that this is not your enemy. The drug dealers are slave traders. The drug dealers of today. And we still have slave traders who are still doing, our children are taken to Libya, are taken to Saudi Arabia and many other countries, and they are in slavery there today, now. That is even worse. The ones in America and in Britain are free now. The ones in there, they take their passport in Saudi Arabia, Libya, they take their passport from there, they can't get out. They rape them every day. They rape them every day. They make them work 22 hours a day. You need to support us to indict the people in Saudi Arabia, throw the Africans out. who are enslaved. Help us. We need help. We are sick in Africa. We have problem. The sickness in Africa is worse than HIV. It's killing us. We are dying. I'm appealing to you, the Western world, to please, you need to help that nation where we have many zombies there. The corruption that you are talking about is, you don't know the corruption in Africa. You have no idea. You have no. The corruption is even in our traditional system. It's even in our cultural system. We kill ourselves every day. I'm not supposed to be saying this because people will say he's spoiling Africa, but this is our sickness. I am sick inside me. I have stomach ache. Please get me a medicine. My children are sick. We are sick. And we need to do more. You have to do more to curb corruption and all this money laundering. You need to do that, please. And our black brothers, please, the black race, please get out more. Don't say that if I'm working or if I go into this, that it will make me to be a slave. My forefathers were slaves and they construct this place. I can't be doing work. And many people go for all these cancer flats. Many people go for all these, what's it called? What we call it Section 8 in America. We call it social, taking money from welfare. Please get off welfare. If you are not handicapped, get off welfare. Go and do what this man did to be successful. Mix more with the white race. Move to their neighborhoods. Yeah, if they are doing things in models, do things in models. Don't the same thing. If you have a community that is of the black race and they are doing what's that? Care work. If they are doing care work, please don't come from Nigeria and say you have to be in that community and do care work. Go and become doctors, engineers, lawyers. Don't stay in what you, this is, because we are fond of saying, this is what my forefathers did. I must be in that song. Please, you can't be like that. The son of a slave must not be a slave. The son of a slave should be free. The son of a slave, you are born free. Your forefathers might be born into slavery, but today, what are you? You're a free man. You're in a free society. Free yourself. Don't be in that slave mentality that you think your forefathers are. Their time is gone. You are no more slaves. Free yourself. Free your mind. Move more. The white neighborhood is, make your own neighborhood to the ghettos, also Peckham, everywhere, make it more better. Yeah, you can't say you want to make it ghetto and live in the ghettos. No. There is no white ghetto anymore. They always make sure they take care of them. So there shouldn't be black ghettos. We are very smart and intelligent people. But where is our smartness? Where is our intelligence? Where is our vibrancy? We need to move forward and know that slave traders during that time are like drug dealers. They are not the one, these people here, this man is not the one that enslaved you. You still have Africans enslaving each other. What would you call them? You are here. You need to move forward and hear. I think everybody should get this copy of what we don't have time. I could have read it and you would have seen what I wrote in there. But I think maybe we should make a copy of it. Because of time, I might not be able to. Or do you have time? You want me to read? You will make the copy. Okay, make the copy for them, please. Thank you, and God bless you. Have a beautiful and wonderful time. I hope you heal. I hope we can hear from this, and this message works like pyramids, so that we can all move on. We need to move up to your level. Yeah, you guys have beat us in some race, but we can still come to your side and beat you in that race. And that is the race of civilization. God bless you.
For those of you who are attending the gala dinner, we will also hear goodwill remarks from His Majesty there. So I had an opportunity there to get into his speech.
And to all the parents, mama, daddy, grandma, grandpa, aunts, uncles, cousins, brothers, sisters, nobody gets here alone, so we celebrate you too. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And thank you for asking me to be here today. I must say this is my first commencement speech, and it is also the first time I've been given an honorary doctorate. So as of Monday morning, I will be calling myself Dr. Perry when I return studio. Being my first commencement speech, I feel the pressure to say something that will inspire you, something that will make you want to go out and take on the world. So my prayer, my hope, and my intention is to try and do just that today. I don't know if you know this, but I did not go to college. It wasn't that I didn't want to go, it was just that I was going through a very difficult time in my life at that point. And I had also had a front row seat to watch my mother struggle to put my older sister through college. And I didn't want to be that kind of burden on her. I knew firsthand the hardship. And especially, you know, because the truth be told, I wasn't that good of a student. I was smart, but I didn't have the patience to learn a lot of the things that I thought that wouldn't serve me in life. You know how hard-headed teenagers can be, they think they know it all. Well, I was one. Sitting there in school, I would get so frustrated because I never thought that I would use a lot of what I was being taught in my real life. And to give that little hard-headed kid some props, there's a few things he was right about to a degree. Because I can honestly say in the 27 years since I left high school, nobody has ever asked me about the square root of nothing. Nobody has ever asked me about the Nina, the Pinta, or the Santa Maria. Nobody, Jane and Susie had 4 apples, walked 5 miles, they divided the apple. Listen, I never met Jane and I never met Susie. I know some of you thinking, why are you telling these young folks this? They have just studied, they've learned all this. Well, I just want you to know, you ain't gonna use all of it. But that's okay, that's okay. Some of your faces are saying right now, you mean to tell me I could have skipped college and been rich and successful like Tyler Perry? While that is possible, I want to tell you that the advantage that all of you graduates have over me, this education, this college degree that you have worked so hard for, I envy you. Because if I could get back half the time and the monies that I spent and wasted because of what I didn't know, I could have paid for everybody's education in this entire school. You see, somebody say, go ahead, listen. You see, come on now, I only got 20 minutes to get through this. Listen, maybe 30. Listen, you see, it was what I didn't know and that I didn't get in college that made it difficult for me to run my business in the beginning. It was what I didn't know, the basics of business, that if I had gone to college, I could have learned them, which would have helped me so much. Now, don't feel sorry for me, I'm doing all right. But my journey would have been so much easier had I taken advantage of the kind of education that you have been afforded here at Tuskegee. When I was growing up, my father was a carpenter. He would take me to work with him. And in the summertime, it was really hot, and I'd be out there with him, and he'd be building these houses. And the part that I hated most about this was when we had to put in the foundation. The part that was very labor intensive. There were the footings that had to be dug to a certain depth. However tall the building was, that's how deep the footings had to be. It was painstaking, digging these holes. And I grew up in New Orleans, so you had to put in these 30-foot pilings sometimes in the ground to be able to support the building. So just to know that, then it had to be what we called formed, where you put these boards around, and then you had to tie the steel, and after all that work was done, you just poured concrete over it. And here's the thing, after it was all done, if nobody ever saw it. All that work was done and nobody ever saw it. No one ever cared about the foundation. The only time you hear someone talk about the foundation is when a house is falling apart. But when the foundation is done right, nobody mentions it. And when it's done right, it can carry the weight of anything that it was designed to hold. Well, that's what you've been doing here. You've been building a foundation, one that will hold you up for the rest of your life. And when I was a kid, I would ask myself, why is nobody paying attention to this foundation? Why did this work have to be so hard? Have you ever wondered, for some of you, why it had to be so hard to get through school? Or just make it from day to day? Well, that's because what you were building had to be strong enough to support the weight of whatever you could dream. And if you're like me, you are a huge dreamer. You had to have a foundation that is big enough and strong enough and bold enough to hold all of your dreams and handle them coming true. That's why in life, it's not always an even playing field. What I mean by that is this: while for some, studying, good grades may have come easy, but for others, every day here may have been a struggle. For some, mama and daddy had money to write the check with tuition with ease, but for others, they had to make a choice between paying a bill and getting your books. For some, it was easy to focus and learn, while others were distracted by problems that they were going through at home or working 2 jobs to make ends meet. All that means is that you were being designed to handle different levels of success. I mean, truth be told, no one really knows what you went through to be able to sit in this very seat. They don't know the hell or the turmoil, but trust me when I tell you, all of it was to make you strong. Strong enough to go through whatever you have to go through to get to your dreams coming true. I want you to ask yourself this question today: how much can my foundation hold? As you think about that, I need to warn you, it takes a while to build a dream. Think about that when you get out there and you're faced with all kinds of challenges. When you get out there in the world, I want you to remember something. What's in the well will come up in the bucket. So thank God that mama and daddy and big mama and grandpa and Tuskegee, they put some good stuff down in your well. So listen to me. No matter what happens, you've got good stuff down inside of you. You can always count on it, so you remember that. But what happens if you get out there and you find yourself saying, I thought I'd have this job by now or that job by now. I thought I'd be working here or there by now. Why aren't they calling me back? Why haven't I been hired? You see, when you leave the protection of the walls of Tuskegee, when you step out from under mama and daddy's shadow, because I'm going to tell you something. Mom and daddy protecting you is one thing, but that world out there is a whole nother thing to deal with. So what do? When you have worked this hard, built this foundation, everything you are trying to build on, it seems to not be coming together? What happens if you find yourself at an interview and realize that you are being judged because of your name, or because of the color of your skin, or because of your size, or because of who you love or where you come from? What if in a few years you find yourself at a glass ceiling, that the one in the career that you thought you so desperately wanted? What do? What happens when the job that you wanted or the career that you planned for doesn't come right away? What do? Well, it was 1991. I was just about your age then, and I had written my first play. It was called I Know I've Been Changed. It was about adult survivors of child abuse, and I wanted to do this show, and just my intention was just to make enough money to be able to take care of my mother. That's all I wanted to do. That was my goal. Make the money and retire her. Anyway, I just moved to Atlanta to try and launch this place, so I went to work. I would always work. You have to always work. You got to always go to work. I managed to save $12,000, and I put the show up, working, used car, bill collector, H&R Block tax return that wasn't quite right, but I got my money out of it. I thought 1,200 people would show up that weekend, but only 30 showed up. My car payment, rent, everything was tied up in it, so I ended up homeless. I ended up out on the street with no money and nothing to my name. But I knew that that is what I was supposed to be doing. I knew that I was on a good foundation. I had put in the work. This was supposed to work. It was supposed to be successful, but it wasn't. Over and over again, it failed, or so I thought. From 1992 to 93 to 94, every year I was doing one show a year. I would go get a job in between, and they would tell me I couldn't take time off. So I would quit. Now, I'm not telling you to go quit your job. I'm telling you what I did. This is my story. I would go tell my boss that I need some time off, and they'd say, no, you just got started working. You just got this job. You can't have any time off. But I knew that that was my destiny, so I kept on doing the play. Every year I would do it. It would fail, fall short, until 1998. In 1998, in the 7th year of me trying, the 7th year of me trying, I was about to give up and walk away. I'd had enough of it. I was going to do like my mother said. She said, baby, go down to the phone company, get you a good job, making about $350 a week and some benefits, and you'll be all right. But how many of you know mama's dream for you is not necessarily your dream for yourself? I knew I was in the right place when one day I started getting notes from people, this was before email, who had seen the show. They would say, this really touched me. This really helped me. They started telling me how it had changed their lives, how they were moved by it. Then I realized, wait a second, this story that I'm telling about these adult survivors getting over things, this isn't just about me or where I come from. It's a healing for many people. I saw it, I got it, and it hit me, and my intention changed. At that moment, it was no longer about making enough money to take care of anybody. It became about what it did for the people who saw it, who saw themselves. My entire intention changed in 1998, and everything in my life shifted after that. I was still doing the same show. I was still doing the same things, but because my intention changed, my purpose in what I was doing, this for had changed. My intention became about how do I serve other people? How do I lift other people? When I realized that, everything in my life began to fall into place. So I want to talk to you about intention today. What is your intention in your career? Why did you choose it? What is your purpose? Because let me tell you, whatever you set your intention as, that is where you will land. You know, once I changed my intention, once it became about, you're going to hear that word a lot, intention. Once it became about going out on the road with my plays to share what I had learned about life, about faith, and about God, and about forgiveness. Once I did that, everything that I touched seemed to see major success. My intention was to use what I had learned in life, to use my gifts, my writing, and everything within me to lift people, to motivate them, to make them laugh, to use the laughter as an anesthetic so that I could talk about things that were plaguing our community that nobody wanted to talk about. Things like domestic violence and molestation and rape and AIDS and HIV, getting over heartbreak, getting over things that tried to take us out, to talk about someone that no one wanted to talk about in this politically correct society, and that is the name of Jesus. You see, to me, my work is a how-to manual for the average person, for people like me when I was growing up, who couldn't afford therapy, people who couldn't afford to take time off from work while they figured things out, for people who couldn't get in their car and go to the country club and play a round of golf and work things out in their head. It was for people like the people that raised me, people that I'm not ashamed to own like many of us do once we get a few letters behind our name. When my intention changed, so that everything in my life, I began to live in purpose and live on purpose. I never thought about money or success again, but it kept coming my way. So much so that I was playing arenas, even until this day, 20, 30,000 people coming into the arenas over a weekend, packing the place just to see my live plays. Then on to incredible success in film with over about 15 movies grossing over $1 billion. Then on to television, where I provided jobs and made more millionaires than all the studios combined in a 10-year period when blacks were absent from television and the film. I helped people like Idris Elba by giving him his first movie. I worked with Kerry Washington before Scandal, and Taraji P. Henson before Empire, with Viola Davis before How to Get Away with Murder. And Miss Cicely Tyson, the legendary Cicely Tyson, she said that I helped revitalize her career. And there are many more. Nothing changed in what I was doing other than my intention. So today I want to challenge you to know your intention as to why you do what you do. And I promise you, if your intention is right, you will be successful. But let me warn you what will happen when you're successful, because I don't want you to get out there and get caught off guard. At first, you're going to be celebrated. But when your success surpasses what your peers expect of you, then you will become a target. So now that you have set your intention, now that you have your foundation, let's talk about how to stay on course when the attacks come. And I assure you, they will come for you just as they did for me. When my attackers started, I was shocked because I was so busy looking outside for the enemy to come and tear me down, I didn't even realize that the enemy was standing right in my own backyard. You see, we as black people, we have come through so much and we've endured so much that a lot of us, not all of us, but a lot of us still bear the scars of our ancestors. We still feel that if one of us is up, then that means that no one else can be too. So in order for me to be up and get ahead, then I can't celebrate you, I have to tear you down. That's the mentality that we have sometimes. That stems from a time in our history that there was only allowed one person of color to be successful at a time. I'll give you an example for Hollywood. When Hattie McDaniel was successful, there couldn't be another. When Dorothy Dandridge was successful, there couldn't be another. When Sammy Davis was successful, you know what I'm saying. You get the picture here. So expect some attacks. It's all a part of it. But remember this, a hunter only shoots at a deer he can see. If you ain't being seen, you ain't doing nothing. I can recall not too long ago being called a coon and a buffoon by one of my peers. Things were written in headlines in some of these blogs like, "What's up with him in this dress? Hello." Headlines, shocking. Why did he put these fat black people on TV when House of Pain came out? This one is someone I saw, it's a title of an article. Tyler Perry hates black women. Another one said Tyler Perry hates black men. I mean, just absurd things that shocked me because it was coming from inside, from black folks. I was blown away. I thought, how could these intellectuals with these degrees, they're so smart, how can they not see what I'm doing here? How could they not get the power of what was happening here for people that everybody else had given up on? Their comments took me aback because I found myself fighting two wars. I was sitting in Hollywood meetings at the board table telling them how important our stories are and how they need to be told and how it was important that we keep our truths as they are. But when I left out of the boardroom, stepped out of that meeting, I had to fight us too. One comment that stuck with me is, Tyler Perry, this was the title of an article, Tyler Perry is dangerous for black people. I thought, what? How can they say this? The people who were saying these things must not have known the experiences and my life and the people around me. They had shaped me, they had shaped my writing and my work, like my uncle with his ashy knees, who drank and fell in and out of love every other weekend. Or my aunt, who would get into an argument with her husband and cut him, dial 911, then pray that he was okay. Or the woman that lived across the street from me who was largely overweight. She had 10 children and she was on welfare. And when I thought about all of these people and their stories, I realized something that stopped me from being frustrated by what they were saying. I quickly stopped paying attention to the naysayers when I realized what they were telling me was, what they were saying is that my stories and the people that I was talking about didn't deserve to have their story told because they were an embarrassment to a certain level of black people. That's what they were saying. And I got angry. I thought, who are they to say that your life and your story as a black person shouldn't be told because you don't look like what they want you to look like? I got angry not just for me, but for all of the people that I love and the millions of people that love what I do. I was offended for the people that I grew up with and the people that loved me so much. I was offended for the people that were maids and garbage truck drivers and hairdressers, the people that shine shoes and wash dishes and scrub toilets and clean houses, so that the very people that are talking about the work that I'm doing could get the degrees to be authorities on all things Tyler Perry. But I must say, when my anger subsided, I wanted to understand this level of elitist ignorance. It didn't take me long to find out that this lives in our culture as well. There is a history of it. It was Langston Hughes who said that Zora Neale Hurston, one of the greatest literary minds of our times, was a new version of the darky because her story spoke in a Southern dialect. I got it then. And it also will go the other way, where they say if you get too much education, then you're trying to be too white. Or if you speak proper English, you're trying to be white. Or if, just take Whitney Houston, who was booed at the Soul Train Awards by black people because she sounded too white. It was in The Color Purple where people boycotted because of the stories and the way that Alice Walker had depicted black men. Alice Walker, a black woman, Alice Walker. They boycotted the movie. And then when it didn't win any Oscars, they boycotted. They said that Oprah was too white. They said that the Cosby Show didn't represent us as black people. So it goes both ways. In my research, I found something shocking. What I found is that we as black people, we have the greatest migration that you could imagine. Let me tell you what I mean by that. Tell you what we do to ourselves. When some of us make a little money, or when we get some degrees, we don't want to be reminded of who we are and where we come from. When we see someone that reminds us of our grandparents or our ancestors, we get offended. If we see an image of a black person on television that is overweight, we get troubled. And you know the thing that bothers me is I have never seen our white brothers and sisters apologizing for telling all sides of their story. Realizing that, I learned not to apologizing for telling all shades of ours. As an artist, this is the art that I want to paint. And I'm going to tell you this, graduates, just as I will never do it, don't you ever change one brushstroke on your canvas because somebody doesn't like what you paint. Because I'll tell you what happened. While they were talking, my intention stayed the same: to encourage, to lift, to inspire. While they were murmuring, I kept going higher. I kept on building, still getting bigger. I kept on working. Why am I telling you this? Number one, so that you know how to stay on course. Keep your intention no matter what pressures come your way. And also, I'm telling you this because it's time that we stop running from where we come from to look for someone else to approve us. I don't know why we run out to someone else looking for validation. I want to tell you something. We are enough. You are enough. Your gift is enough. Live in your truth. Share your gifts. Don't worry about who gets it. If your aim and your intention is for right and to do the right thing, you will make it. And when you do, don't run from us. Don't be embarrassed by us. Come back and help us. You are the generation that has the power to do away with this kind of thinking. You are the generation that can change this. You can show us that all of our stories and all of our lives matter. When I made my first $1 million, I'll tell you what I did. I went back and I set up shop right in the middle of our community, in the hood. I will never forget when President Obama was running for re-election in 2012 and he came to the studio, and to see all of those little black faces lining the streets holding their flags, waving at the presidential motorcade came driving through the ghetto. I saw hope in their eyes. It made me cry because I realized that some of them know that they can do it too. I recently bought Fort McPherson Army Base in Atlanta to build my new studio. And it's right in the middle of one of the lowest income areas in Atlanta. And I will hire many people from that neighborhood and train them on how to run their own companies. It gives me so much joy to know that an army base that was established and built just a few years after slavery is now owned by a Negro. I say that to say this to you, that our ancestors, they walked their path. Your grandparents, your mother, your father, they all walked their paths. Now it's your turn. Return to where you come from when you made it. You have the foundation. Know your intention. Know that it's not going to be easy, but just keep yourself on track. Know the value of what is already down in your well. Know that you are special. Know that you carry it. You have the torch. It's already been bought and paid for. Now it's in your hands. Use it for good. Inspire somebody. Encourage somebody. Uplift somebody. And finally, return to where you got started. Build with us. Teach us. Show us what you've learned. Help us to see that we can do it too. Then help somebody else to know that they are just as special as you are. May God bless you, Tuskegee. Bless all your dreams. Bless you.
Oh, I think we can do a little better than that for Mr. Dr. Tyler Perry. We appreciate Mr. Perry, Dr. Perry. We appreciate his willingness to agree to receive a degree from Tuskegee University, and we appreciate our future with Dr. Perry.